There was that age where you thought you were invincible. You and your shitty friends from community college. 19 years old, still living with your parents in the suburbs and full of idiocy, rebelliousness, and sexual frustration. Chet had his driver's license, so you drove around a lot, smoking shitty weed that was sold to Kev at a premium because he didn't know any better. Chet's brother would buy you a few 40s of Mickey's, and you'd go to a public playground at like 3 a.m. and just chill. Every once in a while, the police would show up and tell you you had to leave, but it was never anything more than that. You were the perfect combination of young and white that made people untouchable in this neighborhood. Well, it also helped that Chet's dad was properly fucking loaded and was on the city council or some shit like that. You and Kev were best friends, and you both thought Chet was a real piece of shit, but no Chet meant no wheels, no booze, and actual punishment for your actions, so Chet had proven himself to be invaluable to your little trio. His girlfriend was a junior in high school. You and Kev knew, you just didn't talk about it. It was a few days before Halloween, and you were in the back seat trying to figure out how to do a whippet with a can of whipped cream when you and Kev got to talking. You'd noticed more than a few Christmas lights already hanging up and had decided you didn't like that. Christmas decorations should wait till end of November, at least. So when night fell, you set about your mission. You put on a Jason mask you bought at a Halloween store. Your friends told you that was stupid, and you didn't listen. Starting around 2 a.m., you went around and started unplugging people's Christmas lights. After the first 5 times, you all got so confident that you unplugged someone's lights and quickly took them down, leaving them in a pile on their front steps before driving away to the next house to do the same thing. Then you got to Reverend Michael's house. You regularly fucked around with him. TPing, egging his house, dumb shit like that. The good Reverend wasn't actually a reverend, just a religious nut with PTSD out the ass from whatever war he fought in. You all figured he was so old he wouldn't hear you do anything, so you got bold. You were going to take the decorations down from his house and put them on his neighbor's house. You'd gotten them all down and were starting to string them up next door when you turned around to a gun inside of a shaky hand pointed directly in your face. Out of instinct, you put your hands up and the old man reaches out and yanks your mask off, visibly calming when he realizes you're just those punk neighborhood kids. He tells you all to come inside while he calls your parents, and the 3 of you quietly sit inside his old man-smelling home around a round table. You still don't understand why what happened next happened, but he came back out, still with his pistol in his waistband, and now he held a shiny revolver. He showed you a bullet and made sure you realized it was real. You all watched in confusion as he slid one bullet in a chamber, spun the drum, and set the revolver in the center of the table the 3 of you were sitting at. Confusion turned to realization. Realization turned to terror. Kev is the one who speaks up and asks what the hell is going on, and the Reverend points his pistol at him. He said, "You play, or I shoot you all." Genius with the mask goes first. He was talking about you. This had, escalated quickly, but the sight of that gun pointed at your best friend made you pretty compliant. You took the heavy revolver and shakily brought it to your temple. You looked at Kev and... click. You breathed deeply as you set it back on the center of the table. Apparently this was going clockwise, and Kev was next. Kev took the gun, put it to his head, and... click. Tears started to stream down Kev's face, but Chet yanked the gun away from him, called you and Kev pussies, told the old man he was fucking bluffing, put the gun in his mouth, and then... click. You wanted so desperately to yell at him before you were informed it was your turn again. The odds are not in your favor. Once more, the gun was at your temple, but it was much harder this time. Click. You were in the clear now. It was either going to be Kev or Chet. Kev looks right into your eyes as he puts the gun under his chin and... click. You audibly sigh in relief. And that's when Chet changes his tune and starts crying, as the gun is slid in front of him. He begged. He pleaded. He prayed to a God he must have very suddenly believed in, and then the Reverend spoke. He said, "God hates a coward, Sonny." And he snatched the revolver off the table. Reverend Michaels pressed it to his own temple, and... you never knew anything could be so loud. You all just kept screaming. You don't know when or how you ever stopped. You replay that moment every day in your head. The way he just fell. You still see Chet every once in a while around town. Every time your eyes meet, you have to think about that time you sat in that room and silently prayed it was him and not you or Kev. You sighed in relief when it seemed like he was Chamber 6. There was no way he didn't hear it.